G'day and welcome to Oceanic Gaming Radio. This is episode 96. It's the 8th of the 7th. It's 7:07 p.m. We're coming live from Perth, Western Australia. We've got Grizzly Gaming 86, myself, Captain Perth, as always. And joining us is a very special guest,
Hello.
Weapon. Welcome to the show, mate.
Yeah,
Hey.
glad to be here. Big, long-time watcher, long-time fan. Glad to be on the show.
Oh, mate, absolutely stoked to have you here. And for those listening, who the fuck is Weapon? What the hell's going on here? Well, we've got a bit of news for you guys. So basically, Weapon is leading and co-hosting a brand new esports podcast. I'll let Weapon kind of get into that, but it's going to be sort of broadcast and whatnot under a collective banner, kind of like an Oceanic Gaming podcast banner. Which we will also be under the same roof of, and we basically this is like we're family
now.
We're family, you know. Yeah, and we're just announcing this shit. It's cool.
It is very cool.
Yeah, because we've known each other for a while, right? It's like what, like RF Land? That was years ago.
Man, absolutely. I mean, when was I can't even remember the first one. It would have been at least 8 years ago, surely.
Yeah, RF Land 60. We could probably figure it out.
Yeah,
So I think my first RF Land was 62. But I think you guys were doing it before me, I believe, for a few years before that.
Yeah,
would have been happening.
So we've got a storied history, and then obviously through many meetups and streams and all the rest of it, Wep. So it's only natural that we'd slowly gravitate back towards one another, right? I guess so.
Yeah, it had to happen eventually.
So what is it, Wep? What's the
All
product,
right.
mate?
Let's talk
give
about
us
it.
the spiel.
So hit up these guys. Really keen to get something happening under the same banner because I love what you guys do. But what myself and my co-caster Max do is we're League of Legends casters. We've been working together on League of Legends casts for like a long time, like 5 years at least. So we've been around the esports scene for a long time. We're going to be doing some events coming up in August, which I'm keen for. Then we've got Space Jump, which will be happening in a week's time or so. But we've been working in esports for a long time. We know a lot of people in the scene, and there's no one giving you the news and perspectives from the Oceanic sort of perspective. So that's what we wanted to do. We've already got that one episode out, and we had an absolute blast recording it. Learned a lot. And our guest was actually Jai Richardson, who's, if anyone knows their cricket.
GZ legend.
Mr. Jar. Yeah, if you've been in the LCO chat, you would have seen GZ Jar as well as Rocket League. He's around, but if you don't know him from esports, you'll know him from cricket, because apparently he's a big deal in cricket. I don't follow real sports, so I feel bad for the guy, but like apparently he's well known.
Yeah, 100%.
Wep. League of Legends in OCE, mate. Is the scene pretty large? Is there a large competitive scene for League?
I mean, it's the most popular esport, right? So, Australia is kind of a weird one because it's always been a Counter-Strike country. We've got like our dudes in like FlyQuest who are over in, I think they boot camp in Europe pretty much full time, come back to compete in a few scattered OCE tournaments and then just crush everyone and go back to Europe. But they're doing us proud. So like, we've kind of got that upper crust of like OCE CS teams, and then like there's a whole thing where OCE league teams have to go through Southeast Asian teams to even get to international. So
same with Dota. SEA is all in that one pool.
Oh, dude,
and pretty much Aussies, there's no Aussie teams. They all end up going to the Australian Dota talent end up in other random teams. Yeah,
like Owie and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, Mighty because Mighty and I work on a friend of ours, Mighty, who we all met at RF Land. We've been talking about Dota, like doing some Dota stuff through Space Jump.
Oh,
so,
mate, get me.
we want to get you on the mic for that.
I actually casted Dota with Mighty at RFLAN 63, I think,
Yeah.
the other day. So a lot of fun. Yeah, he was just doing the play-by-play, and I was more analytical. But yeah, he's all over it, mate. Well,
Yeah.
where can they find you? What's your branding? What's your name? How do these people find your podcast?
All right. So you can find us on Spotify, which is we're mostly focusing on Spotify. We're ENT, so look for ENT dash Esports News Oceania, and then you can also find us on Twitter on the same thing. So there is also the website, which I need to find it.
We'll bang it in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you.
When we can.
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll make a note.
So
much appreciated.
I'm sure there's a few listeners out there that enjoy their esports, specifically League of Legends. Are you going to be covering other esports as well, Web, or is this just focusing on the League of Legends side?
Yeah, 100%. So we actually did a lot of stuff about the London Major for Rocket League, which just wrapped up. It was basically wrapping up as we did the show. So we didn't know the results. It's now all finished, and it was a good showing for the OCE teams. Actually, Power showed up. They're kind of our OCE super team in Rocket League, and then we had the Chiefs go as well. So Max is a big Rocket League guy. If you know Rocket League and OCE, you know Max Formel von Neumann. He's just been the guy for a long time. So we had a lot to cover on Rocket League, and we kind of between us and between the guests we bring on, we're hopefully going to get Pike, the host of the LCO, who's also a longtime co-caster of mine. We hope to cover a lot of different esports, and hopefully there's something there for everyone who enjoys a bit of esports.
Love it.
We got to get you on for some Dota, Grizz.
I'm keen, mate. I'm keen.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
TI time, you're on
very
that.
excited for the international.
See if we can rope in Nat. Maybe we can draw on that connection. Because I used to work with Nat a long time ago, when she was in the amateur scene.
Right. There's actually a lot of casting talent that are Aussies in Dota, which is interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Filtering their way through.
Catalyst, I think, is Aussie.
Yeah, there was a bunch. There's a bunch that went through heaps of drama.
There's a couple of guys.
There's a few. There's a few amateur ones that are doing stuff, isn't there, Cap?
Yeah, but I think one thing I listened to the entire episode, and it is premium quality stuff. A ripper episode, and I think the cool thing is you don't have to even be an esports fan to really get something out of it. Because I don't watch an awful lot of esports anymore at all. But you guys touch on even just kind of broadly just mindsets and even the financials behind esports and even looking at things like, I guess cross-analyzing, I guess kind of movements in esports and what's, sort of suppressing players in the Oceanic scene and stuff. And I found it all really interesting. And so, it's not just kind of, I guess some people might think, it's just going to be like match results, but it's far from that. It's really good content. It's worth a listen. So if you're interested, check the show notes. We'll dump it in there. And keep an eye out for Weapon. I'm sure this won't be the last time we get Weapon to give the old end podcast a plug.
So, give it a shout. And we want to do the same for you guys as well. Oh,
you should probably
shout outs to Moosey.
You should probably explain what ENT, the ENT and what it stands for here.
So we actually don't know because we kind of came up. We decided that it had an E and an N in it, right? So that's the esports news. T probably stands for talk. But we have yet to really lock it down. Right now, it's just ENT because you guys are Ogre. That's all my thinking was. Yeah. It probably stands for Esports News Talk.
Esports News Talk. I like that, dude.
That's fine. It's serviceable. But I do have to give a shout out, like you said, Moosey. I think you're in the chat still. Dude, you've killed it with this logo. If you don't listen to the show, please, because we're very proud of it. But even if you don't listen to the show, at least go to the Spotify page and to the check out the logo. It rules. He killed it.
It's a ripper. Actually, because I loaded it up on my car because I listened to it in and out of work. And our two logos, because they're facing opposite directions, but on my car's heads up display, when I opened up Spotify, it looked like the two banners were looking at each other. It was so funny. I needed to take a photo. I forgot.
What a moment! Post that in group chat.
Really, really good. But Weapon, thanks for joining us, mate. Really appreciate you jumping in and saying good day and letting us know where we can get some more excellent Oceanic freaking podcasting content, baby, because there's not enough out there.
Yeah. And I probably should say that's the other thing. So the plan, because you guys are bi-weekly, of course, is that we will be uploading on the off weeks. So
that's it.
Follow the Spotify. every week. Hopefully, there'll be some OGR related content on your podcasts.
Yeah,
Awesome,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Thanks
Love
so much,
it.
guys.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate
I'll
it.
leave you to it. Have a good episode.
Thanks.
Yeah. Cheers,
Web.
mate. Peace out.
Catch you
See you,
later.
mate. Bye.
Alrighty, Grizz. It's just
Dude,
us now.
my scene transition worked perfectly. Fuck.
Did it?
Look
Hell
at that.
yeah!
All over it, mate.
mate. This, we're pretty good at this now. Well, I mean, mate. First off, how you been? What's been happening? Give me the rundown.
Time is a weird soup. Have you ever listened to Critical Role, Cap? Sorry, this is a tangent already.
I listened to the first couple of episodes, and the first episodes are fucking rough, man. Have you heard the audio quality on those things? They fucking suck.
Dude, yeah.
I couldn't even
They were
start.
streaming to like 3 people back then. Like that was
Yeah.
like, literally just a
Mental.
I think it was like
It sounds
a
like
snowball.
shit.
Yeah, snowball in the middle of a room. Anyway, I won't get on that. Dude, it's time just flying by right now. But I'm having a great time, Cap. Lots of music. I played another tribute festival on the weekend on Friday night. Did Silverchair, set of Silverchair. So that was very good fun. We did the all the Silverchair classics like the year 2000 one. You know that one, Cap? Gonna give it all to you in the year. Yeah. That one, and we did Tomorrow and Freak and a bunch of stuff, so it was very fun.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
In between that, a lot of Elden Ring, Capo, which I will we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, love it.
Yep.
That's exciting, mate.
What about you, mate? What's been happening? Have you had sick family, sick children?
I did, yeah. Last week, both Mia and Ted got a bit crook, and then I managed to dodge it somehow. I get a little bit sick, but it's just that superior fucking immune system, you know. I don't know. I put it down to sorry,
you don't get hammered by it, mate.
Yeah, I put it down to probably just my new active lifestyle, eating well, and taking a multivitamin every day. All right, I'm going to say it. I reckon it's all coming out. It's all up. We'll sort it. So, but yeah, look, ultimately things have been pretty good. Just really busy. I feel like I kind of just regurgitate the same shit every week, but legitimately, like my job's like the busiest I've ever been, and being a dad's like also, another level of busy that you just kind of don't realize until you become a parent.
Have you bought any new toys, Cap, or any new games, mate?
I haven't bought any new games that I've played. I bought a new... Now, fuck, what was it called? Probably should save it for How's Your Gaming Going, but I did buy I purchased a new video gamale.
Ooh, okay.
Now, I can't remember what it's called. It's like this old Morrowind-esque video game.
Shit.
What was it called? Dread Illusion. So that's going to get queued up after I finish the old
Dread Illusion. I actually have put my Baldur's Gate 3 on a mode playthrough on pause while I want to finish this Elden Ring DLC. So my plan is to pick that back up, mate.
Yeah. I love that. But look, other than that, not really any toys. Honestly, not an awful lot. Mia's going to Singapore tomorrow, so it's gonna be freaking lads time.
Oh, dude! So am I still coming over for a heap of fucking tins or what? Does Mia listen to this podcast?
No, she doesn't. So we can say whatever we fucking like.
Yes.
But man, I don't know. I mean, if you want to, but I don't know if I'll be having that many, because being a solo parent and having a hangover is probably one of the worst things ever, especially when they're young. Not fun.
I understand that, mate. I absolutely. I actually have a very busy weekend, so But maybe Space Jump on Saturday, Cap. Maybe I'll come to that.
And that's something that's worth chatting about, because if you are listening to this podcast on the what is the date? It's the 13th and the 14th of July 2024, there is an event going on at 99 Aberdeen Street, I think, in Perth City. There's like a Rocket League tournament. It's all part of this this festival called Re-Perth, and I think they're like reusing old venues that just basically have been abandoned and stuff like that.
That's cool, man.
Perth. Yeah,
and
cool. So they've got this big Rocket League thing going on in one of these venues on 99 Aberdeen Street. So I'm going to go and check it out on the Saturday. I believe it starts at 2 p.m. for a couple of hours. And I'm just going to take Ted down, because we're not really going to have too much to do. So I thought, fuck it, I'll take Ted down. He can get his first taste of an esports event. Hopefully I plant the seed for him to be a big-time esports player.
Yeah.
Just slowly drip feed that. And then one day, I mean, obviously, he's just going to be paying for my retirement because if you
Start
make a
training
big
them while
cash.
they're young, mate. Because when they're young is when they've got all those really high
Oh, yeah.
reflex, you know, and all
Actually,
that kind
I
of
tell
shit.
you what, that
dude.
was one thing that that they were talking about in the ENT podcast was how reflexes affect players, and if there's like there's a significant balance between like player seniority and experience, and how much that has weight on not needing reflexes, if that makes sense. Really interesting chat. Definitely worth a listen. Again, go and listen to that podcast. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, so we're going to do that on Saturday. So if you're floating around, you want to come and say good day to me and my clone that I made, you come and say good day. And maybe Grizz if he rocks up.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll see. I have to speak to the wife. Maybe I'll take the kids with me because I think the wife is working. So that could be a good opportunity. Yeah,
something to do. We could even I don't know, go out my way. We could catch the trade in or something.
Sounds good. Then I can have a beverage in the city with you, mate.
Yeah, exactly right. And then the girls could watch Ted. Yes, this is coming up really well.
Actually, that will work out, dude. That will work out.
It'll work out perfect. But yeah, anyway, so that's kind of like life at the moment, I suppose. So Mia's away in Singapore till the following Sunday. So yeah, I'm just basically looking after Ted, doing the daycare drops, and then work, and then come back, and then bedtime routine. So rinse, repeat for a few days, and then Mia will be back, and then we've actually got a holiday coming up next month to Bali, which I'm pretty excited for.
A little
14th,
international fiasco flight.
Yeah, so I have to do the math on whether I'm going to be away for a podcast, but we'll figure out what we're going to do. And watch this space;
mate.
it should be fine. But yeah, other than that, life's pretty freaking good, Grizz. We're actually just about to sign the contract. We're actually pending the final document for our extension on our house to basically put another house on top of our house. So that's pretty exciting. We're pretty keen.
Double story, mate.
The Dublé story. Can't wait. Going to be good. But yeah, so there you go, Grizz. Well, look, let's freaking dive in, mate, because it's been a big old long start to the episode. So
let's do it.
Let's dive in. So look, firstly, just want to say a big thank you to all our wonderful listeners, whether you're watching live on Monday fortnightly, from 7 p.m. AWST. You can listen to this podcast alongside some legends such as Pixel Ninetales. By the way, how you going, mate?
Yeah,
I hope you're well.
What a legend.
Infono, g'day, mate. And then Eri J as well. Also got Blindsided Moose and Sakose. Yeah, you can join all those bloody legends just by going to twitch.tv/Oceanic Gaming Radio. Follow us there. You'll get notifications. And join us on those fortnightly Monday nights, 7 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time. Otherwise, we're on literally pretty much every single podcasting platform that I know of. I don't think there's many others that we aren't on. But you can find us on everything just by searching up Oceanic Gaming Radio, or go to ogr.show and you'll find all of the links there. Pretty freaking cool. Other than that, just want to say a big thank you to our wonderful Patreon patronacious. They are just the wonderful legends that keep dropping a few buccarinos in our back pocket, keeps the lights on. We really appreciate it. It's super helpful. They are the following legends: I'm a Sukai, Moosey, Caging Runt, Lee, J-Libs, Brendan, Strops, and Slatos. Appreciate you. Appreciate you big time. All right. Well, let's freaking dive into this one. Sorry, I couldn't find the stinger. There it is. All right, so hot news. This is actually really hot news because it wasn't even on the run sheet before the weekend. So, Grizz, this will be a new news story to you. I did mention it on our way in.
Oh, yes. Yes, you did.
But basically, sad news. We've just been receiving reports today that Pedestrian, the parent company of Kotaku, is looking to close down Kotaku Australia. Only a few months after the outlet turned 10 years old. So, as in conjunction with this, it looks like they're also going to be cutting Vice, Gizmodo, Refinery 29, I've never heard of that one, Kotaku, and Lifehacker. So those will be no longer published in Australia.
Wow.
It seems like they'll continue with their global brands and maybe other regional outlets. But so basically there's a parent company that licenses pedestrian brands, including Kotaku here in Australia. And that's the Nine News group.
Owned by Nine, right? Is that right?
Owned by Nine News. Yeah. So what's happened, it looks like today, is it's just this, push towards, trying to cut back on costs at the moment. And unfortunately, these outlets have been affected. Looks like they've just had their CEO has just kind of come out to announce these changes and said that they'll also be leaving as a result of these changes. I don't know whether that's kind of like a show of solidarity or they were cut, but I mean, either. I'm sure that person's probably going to be perfectly fine. But it's unfortunately all the people that are left jobless. A lot of Australian games journalists who have written some amazing content. I mean, I've always read Kotaku Australia, especially appreciate their more nuanced articles that kind of deviates from the more kind of mainstream bullshit that you can get from any other outlet. And I think there was a lot of really talented writers at Kotaku Australia that were pumping out some excellent kind of articles and news, and it's a real shame to see this happen. But yeah, Grizz, what are your kind of thoughts?
Oh, mate, look, I have definitely used multiple of these sites to inform my study for various episodes that we've put together. So it is a shame, mate. It looks like about 40 jobs affected in the cuts. So that's also sad, given the cost of living and everything else is not easy in Aussie right now. So
no. Anywhere really, but yeah, it's pretty rough.
Tech continues to suffer. It seems, Cap.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another kind of avenue of this, and it's an unfortunate one, but with the rise of AI, I guess realistically, not that it's you can supersede journalism at all with AI, but I think a lot of people just assume that the whole idea of copywriting and crafting articles can be kind of superseded and handed off and money saved, I guess. But I think it's going to be one of these things, and Grizz, it's an interesting kind of phenomenon, I guess, that's kind of happening at the moment, and it's this idea of, I believe they call it the cozy web. And I read an article about it, funnily enough, where there's this kind of idea of like the I think they called it, I don't think it's quite the dark web, but it's something like that. And it's essentially just the top level surface of the internet right now is just all this AI generated fucking garbage. It's full of just all these articles that are just regurgitated. They don't actually have any actual kind of human point to a lot of the articles. They're kind of just marketing regurgitation, just crap. But then you kind of go underneath the surface and people are looking for real human produce basically underneath all this garbage that's kind of just surface level, and they call it kind of the cozy web. And Reddit's often used to kind of garner some more intellectual, I guess, conversation and sharing of similar articles. I don't know if you do this, Grizz, but I'm one of those people that will Google something and then put plus Reddit on the end of it just to try and find something.
All the time. If there's any subject that I'm looking up, it's usually my preferred platform is to look on Reddit. Not only for the story, but you can get people's opinions and I guess the voting system that kind of works on you get pretty relevant commentary on whatever it is you're looking up. So 100%, mate. Yeah, Reddit's the way to go.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, like we're going to see more things like this where it's happened. It's already happened to a lot of other news outlets. I know that there was a Vice IP. They did a podcast called, I believe it was called Checkpoint, and they were casualties. I think last year. There's been a few other media news outlets that have been either engulfed by other larger outlets like IGN or just being kind of let go completely. So it's not anything new, but it does suck nonetheless. And especially, I guess, being an Australian and it being one of our major news outlets for gaming news, it just really sucks.
It does suck, Cap. Yeah. And the whole AI talk is very relevant too, Capo. And we're going to get there in a little bit. But I do feel like as times progress, it's just one of those things. Technology just seems to often replace people's jobs, which is just continually scary, Cap.
Yeah.
One of my jobs has been taken through a technology advancement. I'm sure there's many people out there that have had the same thing. So,
Oh yeah. I mean, there's parts of my job that will and already have inevitably been consumed by AI. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
And you just embraced that, Cap? Have you just embraced that change? And
I mean, it's led to efficiencies for me, so it means I can spend my time on other stuff. But
yeah,
if your entire job was superseded by AI, I mean, that's not going to be particularly great.
Which is what happened to me. Well, wasn't AI. It was just technology advancement, I guess. Yeah, robots. Basically, robots, Cap.
Yeah. Crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy.
Big time.
But look, as a part of this, I just kind of wanted to reiterate something that David Smith, who was the managing editor of Kotaku, he noted that you should go and read and listen to as much Australian content and media as you possibly can to support other outlets that are still doing it tough. Some ones to consider are the following: gameshub.com, also press.au, which I watch and listen quite a lot of, Checkpoint Gaming, also Player 2 Australia, so that's player2.net.au, Well Played AU. There's another one here called vooks.net, and this one called Stevia. So yeah, go and check all those outlets out and go and give them your support, because you never know when you might lose them. And it can happen, and it may very well happen if you don't support them. So, yeah, there you go.
Nice one.
Anyways, moving along. Funnily enough, our next story is on generative AI in video games, Grizz. And the reason I brought this up is because Nintendo has announced that it is going to be taking a hard line on the use of generative AI in their own first-party video games. So basically, in a recent Q&A with investors, Nintendo's president, Shintaro Furukawa, was asked about using AI in video games, and his response was the following. In the game industry, AI-like tech has long been used to control enemy movements, so game development and AI technology have been closely related. Generative AI, which has been a hot topic in recent years, can be more creative, but we also recognize that it has issues with intellectual property rights. We have decades of know-how in creating optimal gaming experiences for our customers while we remain flexible in responding to technological developments. Bullshit. Sometimes they're pretty fucking slow on that front.
They're very slow. They've got to be the slowest, I think, Cap. It's slowest dev.
We hope to continue to deliver value that is unique to us and cannot be achieved through technology alone. Now, I think this is great.
Yeah, this doesn't surprise me in the least, Cap, coming from Nintendo.
No, neither. And Nintendo's always on this weird line between like wants to adopt but then also refuses to adopt, and I think their general like networking services is a pure wonderful example of that.
No joke, dude. They're only just starting to create online games now.
I know. Yeah, I mean, even thinking just like the whole idea of online multiplayer for them has been like such a slow thing. But I mean, even thinking about, you know, we've spoken about it plenty of times, Grizz, but their entire kind of like Nintendo online platform, like the Switch Online platform and stuff, you know, that's been a very slow process for them. And hopefully they can solve some of those issues with the Switch too. But I mean, in recent years, between console generations, a lot of it has been you buy the games again on the next platform because it's completely separate. And I mean, that's worked really well financially for them, but they've always been a little bit behind the eight ball. So, but I do really appreciate their stance on generative AI, especially in video games, because I don't think generative AI works best in the game content side of things.
Yeah.
I think it works better in supporting the development and speed of development, not in the generation of the content.
I could challenge that by saying I reckon Pokemon Arceus could have done with a little bit of generative AI in some of those environments just to flesh them out a little bit without costing development time to do so.
Yeah. And maybe that's kind of where the line needs to be drawn is where can this be done? Because I mean, that's another thing is like what Nintendo's kind of getting at here is that these models need to be trained on content
Yeah.
unless you're going to feed it your own content, that it's only going to be able to iterate on what you've done, not what other people have done to do better.
So, I've got a couple of points to make here, Cap. I feel like Nintendo is pretty much different to any other developer, especially when it comes to their IPs, right? I feel like a lot of their IPs, the majority of their IPs are returning IPs, Mario, etc., Donkey Kong, whatever else, Pokemon, all those. And I feel like they control those IPs so closely. You always hear about lawsuits, them, taking people to court, other bits and pieces around using those IPs inappropriately. They even commented on the use of Power World and other bits and pieces. Nothing was done there. But I do kind of feel like, they are always behind the eight ball a little bit when it comes to technology, because they can still sell the games, not having to use, other bits and pieces other devs need to. So I think they're kind of almost like in their own little world here, Cap, and they can probably get away with making decisions like this not to use generative AI. Although, like I kind of mentioned, I do think there's probably little bits and pieces they could use to, I don't know, maybe flesh out some other bits and pieces development. But
and maybe they already are, but they kind of didn't directly. I think they're kind of, because one thing that is kind of obvious with a lot of this stuff is, especially when it comes to investor calls, is, a lot of investors like to see people responding to trends and stuff in industries. And obviously one of the biggest technology trend, realistically, of all time has been AI, and the idea of integrating AI into workflows to, reduce overhead and increase, realistically, investor returns, right? So I think that's kind of why this was initially called. But realistically, Nintendo's obviously very aware that they're putting their best foot forward in terms of development involves continuing to do what they've always done well, and that's crafting very fine, handcrafted experiences. But I think they didn't really talk about whether they're using it in their kind of development workflow. It seems they're kind of being fairly specific with, they're not utilizing this to generate like story hooks. They're not using this to generate
dialogue generation,
and all that kind of shit, and maybe even art assets and stuff like that. But they very, very well may be utilizing it in their basic kind of day-to-day programming stuff, because I know I am already, like, and
I think it's worth touching on, Cap, the scope of, at the moment, what generative AI can do. Why don't you run me through the kind of stuff that it can actually deliver that we're seeing it used for at the moment?
Well, there's a shitload of stuff, right? Especially when it comes to things like games programming, for example, like, with, mixed success, depending on, the inputs you give it. You can ask it to help you kind of perform certain or write certain things for you, and you can kind of draw that in to your code base and test it and kind of go from there. As the AI gets better and better, it will kind of produce better and better kind of results. But I guess in terms of games programming at the moment, it can help you kind of design singular entities of functions and stuff, which you can pull into your code base. Obviously, we just touched on it before, but it can help you design assets for all kinds of stuff, whether it be, maybe you want just a little bit of, I don't know, perhaps you want a little bit of inspiration for your original kind of early art kind of design stuff for early games, the kind of planning and stuff. Maybe you want a bit of help with that. Maybe you want it to help you write a template for putting together a game development documentation or something like that. There's so many places where I guess Gen AI can slot into your day-to-day workplace. And this is a lot of stuff people already know about.
Yeah.
But when it comes to games programming, there's plenty of applications, right?
There's some real interesting ones that I think would be fucking cool that aren't there. I don't think they're obviously there yet. We haven't seen a game with them, but the whole idea of dynamic storytelling and automated quest generation, and voice modification tied into that. So you might have a interaction with someone that is completely different based on your set of inputs talking to that person, and using a voice synthesis and some generative AI them actually talking back to you. You know,
Yeah.
like I guess the whole idea behind that in an RPG to me is very. I think that obviously we're not there; it's a long way away. But
I think that could be really cool. The only issue we've got at the moment is like even Google and stuff. You know, when you get AI, like when you get search results and stuff returned from whether it be Gemini or something else like that, there's plenty of like warnings about, hey, like the information this returns could just literally be garbage, and you need to do your own research effectively. And what they call a lot of this stuff is hallucinations, right? So the AI is just has found something through its large language model or whatever, and it believes whatever it's regurgitating to be true, but it might be honestly just nothing to do with it, even in some cases. And so the issue we have at the moment is because we can't, because of the way you have to train these things and how unreproducible a lot of the outputs are, it's very easy for you to get hallucinations in your in a thing like RPG dialogue systems and stuff, where maybe you're talking to an NPC and then they just talk absolute bullshit for like it makes no sense kind of thing. You know what I mean? So. And I guess as a gamer, if you're playing, say you're playing Elden Ring, and imagine like, Gideon Ofnir just starts talking about the stock market or something, and you'd be like, what the fuck's going on here? It'd be hilarious, but it's going to completely fuck your immersion, right? So I think there's parts of this where we're just not quite there yet. You know what I mean? But ultimately, it'd be really rad to see that integrated and stuff, and how a story could maybe change again, like you said, in reaction to your actions and stuff. I guess a little bit more dynamically and less branched. I guess you know what I mean. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens. I suppose. There's some incredible stuff that could kind of be done in the future, right?
I think it's the future of. I think eventually, Cap, there will be AI used. I know that we're talking. There's a few different things we're talking about here. We're talking about the actual physical development of the game, and then there's also talk about using AI to test things as well, and then the use of AI physically in your video game. I guess there's different facets there. But yeah, my take is, Cap, I think I would almost bet my livelihood that we will see AI used in video games like that in our lifetime, obviously, or the next few years, I reckon. Whether it's implemented very well or not, but yeah, it's interesting. I do kind of feel like Nintendo is its own. They've always kind of done what they do. They're quite separate to Sony and Xbox in that matter. Developing games, they've got those IPs that work and they know what works. So yeah, you're not going to use
absolutely.
it.
Oh, for sure. I think
we'll cover it later, Cap. But they're not suffering financially either, mate. The decisions they're making are good decisions.
Exactly right. And I mean, you do look at other AAA developers, and you kind of look at the trends that they've been following in the past few years, and then also which are the AAA developers that have been hurting, and it tends to be the ones that are kind of trying to utilize stuff like this to maybe cut corners. But the thing is, again, it comes to this whole idea of like gamers, I think, especially when it comes to console level gaming and not kind of mobile gaming and stuff, but console level gaming, to produce a good product, it needs to be immersive and it needs to feel crafted. And I mean, at the moment, like, it's pretty obvious when something's AI generated. And I think a lot of people are going to see those scenes quite quickly and not interface as organically as they would a non-AI generated product. You know what I mean? And I mean, it's quite interesting because at the at some of the more recent games conventions, in previous years, we've seen a lot of stuff like, NFTs taking spotlight and people getting really excited about, NFT integration within video games. And, gamers have reacted insanely poorly to those being introduced.
Oh, yeah. So that was a big topic. Where did that go? Well, I guess the
I think
market
it just
crashed, didn't it?
And none of the games that kind of were, implementing NFTs really did very well, nor were they very good games at all. They were kind of just like cash grabs. But I think the interesting thing here, Grizz, is even with the idea of AI and probably more so generative AI, I think we've seen that major companies, I mean, obviously a lot of these companies are working towards using Gen AI in games content generation. That would be my only, definite prediction, and I'd be very surprised if they weren't. But we're not seeing an awful lot of information on what they're building, because normally you would think that there'd be a lot of companies coming out saying, hey, we're really excited about this new thing we're working on, but they're being very careful about what they say.
Well, I think people, like you say, Cap, are actually scared to say that, and they probably legally don't need to. I think there obviously is a big negative stigma about AI.
Absolutely.
We've seen voice actors speak up about it, and many artists and other bits and pieces. So yeah, definitely a interesting one. And I think our most ever successful TikTok, Cap, was us discussing the use of AI to develop Palworld.
Yeah, and people got really shitty about it, and boy, was it funny.
So could you imagine if a dev came out and said that they used AI to generate some assets or even to help develop their game? The first thing I spring to mind is you could be hiring someone. It's a cost-cutting thing. You've taken someone's job to use AI to develop that part of your game. And that's a real thing. But also technology, mate. Technology, fuck. So many, like I mentioned at the start, so many people have lost their livelihoods through technology. And
absolutely. I mean, the whole idea of industrialization basically rendered a significant portion of the population not able to work. So, it's kind of it's an unfortunate reaction of humanity. Consequence, for humanity is naturally, as technology improves our lives, it also fucks our lives in some other ways. But I mean, one just off the top of my head, whilst I'm thinking about it, Grizz, is even the whole idea of doing quality checks on video games is quite a laborious practice, and you hire a big quality assurance team for a lot of AAA developers.
You get paid to play video games, though, Capo. Is that
get paid to play video games? But I mean, that could be potentially an avenue where AI becomes quite widely used, and I'd imagine that's probably going to be one of the biggest ones. Is just using AI tools to test your video games naturally without you having to kind of pay for a human being to do it on time. So there's going to be plenty of avenues.
I'm going to give this example here, Cap. So the job that I lost, mate, was as a science diver, particularly for coral monitoring. They started using robots, ROVs, to go and take photos of corals instead. Safer, cheaper, you don't need a 5-man team to do it, all these things. But anyway, there's one thing that an ROV couldn't do, which was go down and fan the coral and feel it, and there was something that a human could do that would give you extra little bits of information that were important in that work. And I'm sure that the same is said for game testers, QA/QC game testers. I feel like
underlying it all, it's you're utilizing like coding tools to interface with the game to do the testing a lot of the time, and that stuff is where AI is really easily integrated with, especially from a development standpoint. So I think you're right. I mean, even looking at some of the stuff I used to do when I was a geologist, and I always thought at the time, I was like, man, one day this is going to be fully automated, and
is it
I'd be surprised. I wouldn't know off the top of my head because I don't operate as a geo anymore. But there was one particular job that I had for a while, and it was basically these 360 degree photos of boreholes. Yeah, and I used to sit there and click little sine waves to do measurements and stuff on structures in the borehole and all that kind of shit. And I remember just thinking, God, there's going to be an easier way to do this. I can't believe someone's paying me to put little clicks on this fucking photo. But now, I'd be very surprised if that wasn't being AI passed. I mean, you're still going to have, depending on, especially when it comes to financial implications, right? So information from that borehole would result in, realistically financial data. You might be utilizing the data that gets pulled out of those boreholes for a gold announcement or something. So the information that comes out of there needs to be vetoed by a human being at the end of the day. So there's probably still going to be, depending on the criticality of the data that's being pulled out of it, there's still going to have to be some level of human check over the top of it. Because, I mean, again, we talk about hallucinations and stuff. AI can put whatever the fuck it wants in there.
We've got fucking trucks that aren't driven by people here in West Australia now. Most of the mine sites are all automated trucks that just drive a route that Yeah, massive big trucks full of
not
iron
like
ore
small ones, like the size of like 5 houses trucks.
Humans do not drive those anymore.
Yeah.
It's all just computers.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, it
Mental.
kind of feel like we're in an episode of June or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, big time.
But yeah, crazy. Anyways, Grizz. But yeah, there you go. Like, I mean, Gen AI.
Takeaway, Cap, AI, generative AI. Do you think good for gaming, bad for gaming? Give it to me right here.
I think right now it is bad for gaming, but I think over time, as we learn where it can have impact and still ensure the quality of the product that's coming out, it will become good for gaming. And I think it's really important for developers like Nintendo to have a hard stance to show where it can and can't be used effectively.
I like that. That's good, Cap. I would just like to be able to walk into a bar, talk to the tavern keep, and him respond to me different to the way he responds to you, and have a conversation through AI with the tavern owner.
Yeah. I think that's actually, before we kind of wind this one up, one thing I was thinking about earlier is maybe like a good place for AI would be kind of procedural difficulty generation. But then I had a kind of second thought about that, and I was like, the only issue there is like you kind of are slowly deviating away from like shared experience, where I find a lot of gaming for me is like talking to others, how they went with a game, especially like even just thinking about Elden Ring recently, and like the DMs you and I have been having and talking about Elden Ring, and there's a common point of reference there that the difficulty is the same for the both of us. Whereas if AI had that as a sliding scale, like we probably wouldn't have, well, we definitely wouldn't have the same experience, full stop. And I wonder how much of that kind of also bleeds into story and everything else, to the point where suddenly we're not really playing the same games at all, and like that common point of reference is just kind of lost.
Dude, I think having an option to turn that on and off would be pretty cool. A generative AI difficulty that picks up if you're really struggling, and it balances the game to make it enjoyable for you. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I can't remember, there was a game I played on PlayStation recently where it had like I don't know if it was AI specifically, or such a like generalized term, the whole idea of AI, but I guess it kind of had like a variable difficulty scale, and I can't even freaking remember what game it was. I can't see it to the side of me anyway. But yeah, I remember thinking, I wonder if this is AI, but I mean, I don't know. So
Pixel Ninetales in chat is saying the Resident Evil remakes have the adaptive difficulty.
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Yeah. And I suppose
I know in Aladdin, in SNES Aladdin, back in the day, there's this one section where Genie puts these clouds for you to jump on over this platforming bit.
Oh.
And if you die there too many times, he lays out a real easy one for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that actually as a kid. Yeah, that's a classic. But look, kind of shoehorning off this, Grizz, and we've kind of been touching on Nintendo, and it kind of seems like a lot of Japanese game developers are not really being affected by the recent layoffs that have been, targeting a lot of AAA developers. More recently we had obviously some of the Bethesda adjacent studios, the ones such as Tango Game something or other, Tango Games, and also can't think of the other one, Arcane. We're both closed down. But we're not seeing an awful lot of layoffs coming out of Japan. And I mean, more recently we had Miyazaki from Software noting that they had no layoffs planned. Konami have been kind of slowly growing, and Capcom even raised their wages like this year. To kind of help with inflation and whatnot. So,
and I believe Nintendo's the same, Cap. They've got the highest retention, like employee retention.
Yeah. I actually think one thing that I heard about Nintendo is it kind of becomes a place for a lot of genius developers as well. So they tend to just keep their staff around for ages. And
98.8% retention rate of Nintendo employees.
Yeah. Yeah,
with an average tenure in the industry at 14.3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a significant amount of retention.
Mm.
Pretty wild. Now, one thing that has been noted in this article specifically I'm reading is that there's a lot of Japanese laws that restrict non-permanent employment. So it kind of promotes you to utilize non-consultancy as well and kind of hire people in-house to get shit done, which I think is a brilliant way to preserve roles, obviously.
Yeah. And they also say, Cap, that it's very hard to fire someone once you've got them on the books there too, right?
Yeah.
Like we're talking about companies being taken to court over unlawfully letting someone go and other bits and pieces. So very, very quite different to what we see here in Australia and US and other places, Cap. But
yeah. I think also realistically, Grizz, kind of reading the writing on the wall here, because I mean, this article doesn't really. I mean, it kind of touches on a lot of broad strokes with,
it does,
I guess, culturally what they're like in Japan in terms of how they employ and how they retain and I guess how they operate. But I think one of the big things to really talk about here, Grizz, is I think realistically, a lot of Japanese companies are just very conservative with their games projects, and they don't do the bullshit that seems to happen in a lot of Western countries because maybe they are a little bit more frivolous with money and a bit more frivolous with contracting and hiring and all the rest of it. They kind of bloat very quickly, whereas it seems like in Japan, they have all those kind of constraints around their market, their employment market, and keeping people in the books and doing the right thing. But then it kind of seems like, even thinking about From Software, they know what works for their games, and they don't deviate too far from that. And they iterate. And when they do iterate, they tend to iterate in a direction that only improves the overall product. You kind of compare that with Nintendo. They kind of do the same. They know which IPs work really well. And they know how to expand
They're
them.
not scared to say we're not using AI. They're sticking to their guns in that respect. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you kind of compare to a lot of other Western companies and markets and, you kind of look at what they're kind of doing broad strokes. And they just kind of seem to be clamoring over each other to be the first to use shit like AI and to be the first to like keep pumping out the regurgitated cookie cutter like open world games and then suddenly wonder, why is no one buying our games anymore? Because I mean, it's all fucking garbage. You
could do a massive deep dive into this article alone, Cap. There's a few things that I guess resonate with me. The fact that you've got these laws that make it hard to fire people. You can't offer casual contracts and bits and pieces means it's really important that you get the right person for the right role. Sounds like employee retention is high. Well, at least it is for Nintendo. People aren't moving around jobs a lot, so you've got the right people for the right job. Also, the cost of living over there is quite low, Cap, and the wages are low, but the wages are low and the cost of living is low, and that kind of evens out. So game development as a whole is probably quite low when you compare that to, say, US or somewhere else.
As in overhead costs, you mean?
Overhead costs here. So I think there's like a lot of different facets here that drive this. But you're right, Cap. It's also down to, if you look at these names that we're looking at in this article, you look at From Software, Bandai Namco, Konami, Nintendo, Capcom, they have not put a foot wrong, Cap. They're bringing out a lot of good video games, obviously. So,
yeah, I suppose the only company that I think I've seen maybe suffer a little bit recently is probably Square Enix, in all honesty. And I think, unfortunately, the big difference there is that Square Enix is quite reliant on a Western audience as well. I mean, obviously Nintendo's reliant on that, and so is From Software. But there's a lot of other Japanese companies that just don't really need the Western kind of Western angle. And it seems like over time the Final Fantasy games have struggled a little bit, and then also Square Enix.
Do you think they're still making money on those Final Fantasy games, Cap?
Oh, yeah, they are, and they've promoted
that.
But I mean, the thing is, Square Enix has had quite lofty expectations for a lot of its IPs, and they consistently say that they haven't met expectation a lot of the time. And it's hard to know, obviously, what that expectation is because they don't announce or release information on what their internal kind of operations are. But obviously, they're expecting X plus whatever for their profit, and they're only getting X. So. Regardless, it seems like Square Enix is probably one of the only ones I can think of that are suffering recently. I think they've had layoffs.
Okay.
But yeah, it is generally quite interesting.
The other thing I wanted to talk about, Cap, really quickly, is if you can't fire someone and you can't hire casuals, I feel like that if your company's not doing well, you can't fire and rehire. It's difficult to do that. Would just drive you into surely just closure of that like company, right?
And maybe that's some of the issues that are happening in Square Enix. Maybe I don't know for sure. I don't know what the culture or I guess what the internal vibe there is, but maybe there's kind of a lot of older developers or people they kind of can't get rid of that are making it difficult to iterate, making it difficult to take their IPs in a different direction, perhaps.
True.
Interestingly, around about this time, there was another. What do you call it? Article that's been floating out. Well, I was going to say this one for the rapid fire, but we'll just kind of talk about it now whilst we're on the topic. But Nintendo's recently kind of just said that they're focusing on kind of handing over the company to its younger developers now, because I mean you kind of look at some of the guys that even thinking about Miyamoto and whatnot, you see them get up on stage and talk about some of the new games coming out. And they're getting old, They're like pushing like 70. Some of those guys.
That's pretty good, Cap. That they've got the foresight to do that. Someone has the foresight to do that. You know, like there's got to be a passing of the reins at some point. And
yeah. Well, Miyamoto was quoted saying, after being kind of queried about the whole idea of handing the company over and some of their creators aging. And probably not being able to hold the reins forever, obviously. Miyamoto kind of said, I consider Nintendo's generational handover to be progressing smoothly. We have developers that are both young and brilliant. So it kind of comes back to that idea of where clearly Nintendo is harboring some really, really good talent. And we're seeing that in the games that have been coming out in recent years. And I mean, even thinking about Grizz, like, it's not just the idea for me, like talent in video games development is not only producing great story content, it's not even making great gameplay. But when you think about a game like even Tears of the Kingdom and how they got that game to run well on the Switch, that is technical brilliance.
That is development time right there, mate.
That is it.
No shit.
And so to have a game that is operating on like significant different, like, you're in the sky, you're on the fucking floor, you're down under in the caves and like in and out and out and in, that is technical brilliance. So, it's been, I don't know, it's good to see, So, I don't know. Just to kind of wrap this one up, Grizz, Japan seems to be doing all right, and I think I'm going to continue to support Japanese games as I always have because
they're doing good.
They're
mate.
doing well, and you should support the
switched on.
games that are doing you should support the developers that are doing a good job, not the fuckwits that are doing really really average battle pass and free to play.
Like the next story, hey Cap, the fucking next story, mate.
Exactly right.
Good segue.
Exactly. So on that note, Bethesda has a game called Starfield. And
now, before you jump into this, one of our viewers loves Starfield. Is that Slatos?
Slatos does, but he said he moved on the other day. So
he's moved on.
I think
so
he won't mind if we shit talk it. Yeah,
we can shit talk it. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we did anyway, but when he was playing anyway, so whatever.
Yeah.
But look, basically, in between, so we've got the next DLC coming out called Shattered Space. That's not hit markets yet, but in the meantime, Bethesda's put out some content called the Vulture Quest. Which is available in their modding community thing. Slatus is in the chat. G'day, mate. Basically, I think the whole idea is that you can download this Vulture Quest thing from the Creator Club, which is kind of like the modding area, and it's being published by Bethesda, from what I understand. Now, the thing is, this is the first paid DLC because the quest costs $7 and it's only available from the Creators Hub, right? So I think they're trying to get people to get in there and see that there's other things going on in the Creations Hub and, you can download these free mods and whatever else. Now, the issue is, so it's being marketed as a piece of downloadable story content. It's got voice acting and the whole lot. Now, it just turns out that it's only about 20 minutes worth of gameplay. They're charging you $7 for it. And it seems like it's just kind of utter shit. the actual story quest is like really, really boring and a bit lifeless. And it's just kind of, yeah.
I cannot get my head around the decision, Cap, to tie a small story element to a paid cost in the marketplace.
Yes,
and
neither.
It seems so. Just so on Steam right now, if you go and look at Starfield recent reviews, it's got mostly negative reviews in there. And I'm just going to read this one because I think this does a pretty good job at explaining why people are angry about this, or at least unhappy about this. So I picked this up at launch. A lot of us did. I got way into it before I realized the pond was very, very wide and only a quarter of an inch deep. Mm-hmm. Now the DLC announcement and the Creation Club content and pricing, ? Rarely pay permission. You've effectively killed any reason for me to remotely want to reinstall or invest time in this product beyond the 245 hours I've sunk into it. If anything, I feel like I should bill you and charging you for the time to beta test this product. I feel like paying for because it's not a DLC, Cap. Would you say? Well, it is. Is it a DLC? But would you classify this as a DLC?
Technically, I mean, by pure classification of the fact you download it, it is a piece of downloadable content.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I think the issue here comes from when you download a piece of quested story content from the developer of the game you're playing, I think you hold it to a higher standard versus other shit that you would download from modders. Now, the thing is, they've put this in their modder ecosystem because I think partially the intention here was to show, hey, modders, create quests and you can go and have people pay for it and charge for it. Sure, that's fine. But the issue is you've created a piece of content that is pretty much literal garbage and then you're charging people $7 from it. So you've kind of just really just diminished the overall value of the game entirely and kind of, I guess, the whole use of that particular marketplace. So I can kind of see the intention there to maybe try and get people in there looking at modded content, maybe buying some.
That makes more sense. That makes more sense. I think they might have just gone about it along the way. And it does look like they have kind of backtracked on their Twitter about this, even though nothing's been done. Cap, I did write down here somewhere around something. It looks like they discussed by potentially reversing this, but it hasn't happened yet, around the cost for that particular item.
I'm sure that they'll wind it back. But look, Grizz, I can't help but continue to feel that like the Bethesda that we knew and love is just so fucking gone. It is not in the room anymore. It is that company is pretty much gone. I kind of hope to see maybe the next Doom iteration kind of, have some headway. But I mean, the more recent kind of like Starfield, Elder Scrolls-esque stuff has just been very, very unfortunate.
Fallout 76. Right.
Fallout 76 was just an absolute schmozzle. I mean, Fallout 4 was just, I mean, again, look, this is my own personal opinion, but I think it was incredibly boring, lacked a lot of kind of just the Fallout vibe. And ultimately, I think they spent more time on some of the systems that needed less time spent on it, like base building and stuff in the Fallout game. I'm just kind of like, I don't need that. Just give me a good Fallout RPG experience without all the other, like, survival crafting bullshit. Or if you're going to do it, just do it properly and do it well. And it just didn't feel good, So I think the Bethesda's in this struggle phase of putting out games in its own kind of standard Bethesda template and structure, but they're putting it out into an ecosystem of video games that are just upwards and way better in the same genre. Things have changed, but Bethesda is not changing with them. They're not using them as impetus for changing their own development practices and producing good content. They're just kind of sticking to what they've always done, and it's getting aged and it feels tired.
We're going to talk about it a little bit later, Cap, but I did find the statement here. Apparently, Todd Howard came out and said that the studio is aware of the criticism and is now going to reevaluate the pricing and what's included in the game in the future. So it sounds like they have taken some of the criticism on board. But look, I guess my takeaway on this, Cap, is I can't help but think about a couple of games, No Man's Sky and what's that futuristic one that rose
Cyberpunk.
from the Cyberpunk, and they offered free content and just to get players back into to playing their video games. And I know that this was to try to pull people into the mod store. I didn't understand that before speaking to you tonight about this, and maybe, you know, encouraging modders to mod the game, and then the fact is that maybe they can sell those is one point. But I feel like the way they've gone about this is not the way to do it. You just give them the content. Give them the content because it's going to bring people that people will see that you've provided free content and they'll come play a game. Like No Man's Sky continually iterates on that game, providing you free content.
Yeah. And you probably stoke less fires, you know, you probably garner better player relationships. I suppose the only thing that I really don't like is I think a lot of Bethesda's recent kind of approach to its, you know, modded games has been, I mean, realistically, it tends to be that the modders fix the game in the end. You know, they provide some quality of life changes that actually make the game feel good, or, you know,
we've
new
joked
AI.
about this many times about the Bethesda games. rely on the modding community to. I mean, look at bloody Elder Scrolls, Cat.
Yes.
The only reason why that game is still alive now, and a lot of people still play it, is because the modding community is insane for it. You can basically reskin that whole game to make it look current.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Grizz, kind of alongside all this is, you know, Todd Howard's sort of come out and noted that they don't really want to rush the next Bethesda game, Fallout game, which is, you know, that was in response to just kind of having a bit of a chat with a YouTuber. He said, for other Fallout games in the future, obviously I can't talk about those right now, but I would say sort of rushing through them. But I would say short of rushing through them, we need to get stuff out that is different than the work they're doing in 76. So, you know, obviously there's conversations about what the next Fallout game is. Obviously, you know, this was all kind of in response to the Fallout the Fallout TV series that has done really well. And if you haven't watched that, go and check it out because it's a very, very well put together piece of media. But I guess, you know, they've kind of got, I guess, because you kind of think about what Bethesda's main IPs are, right? They've got Elder Scrolls. So they've got that. They've got, you know, apocalyptic, you know, post-40s apocalyptic Skyrim scrolls, which is Fallout. And now they've got Skyrim in space scrolls, right? So they've kind of got these three major pillars, but how do they effectively differentiate them without just regurgitating the same template on top of it every time? I think that's kind of what maybe Todd's alluding to.
I think that's their issue, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's their...
And they're just not doing, because they've got all these things in perpetual development. I'm wondering if maybe they're finding it really difficult to really iterate properly on the whole idea of what a Bethesda RPG is these days, because they're too busy trying to turn these new IPs that are kind of just a distillation of their Elder Scrolls RPGs every single time into new directions without being able to kind of really take a single their template in the right direction, if that makes sense. And it makes me wonder, like, what the man?
They need to buy out. They need to buy out some other companies to get some new, fresh eyes on this stuff. Cap, that's my take, mate. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, they tried it with Arcade and stuff, and it didn't seem to go too well. But
it's true. Hey, question to you: will we see the original Fallout games remade, remastered?
Look, I'd be really surprised if they didn't redo Fallout 3. I don't know how that would look, but I mean, I just want Vegas redone. Like Fallout New Vegas, I think represents for me the pinnacle of all of the like over-the-shoulder kind of first-person / whatever Fallout games. You know, because I mean, I kind of hold them separate to Fallout 1 and 2 and stuff. So
they're made by a different dev, those very first ones.
They are. They're made by Obsidian.
That's right. Yeah,
and Obsidian were the original.
They were the top-down, weird exploration, kind of almost like Diablo-looking kind of games.
Yeah,
janky.
So I think I'd love to see that, but you know, I'd be very surprised if there wasn't some piece of major Fallout content that came out around about the same time as the next TV series. Whether that is a major piece of DLC content or whether that is a small kind of, I don't know, even mobile game or something like that, I'd be very surprised.
I'm sure they'll line it with that because it's been quite reasonably successful. I actually watched it. Well, didn't really get into it. I watched like a few episodes. No, didn't really get into it. Yeah, it was all right.
I can understand, you know, I mean, because, I mean, you've played the Fallout games though, right?
Not all of them. No, I played the very originals and I played Fallout 4, I think. I haven't played New Vegas, Cap, so I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I haven't played that.
I mean, if you've only played Fallout 4, I think I can understand. I think the thing I like about the TV series is how it does a good job of kind of just regurgitating what a Fallout game is in more recent iterations. So I don't know. It's I can understand the criticism. It's, you know, it's fine.
Well, Cap, let's talk about Elder Scrolls 6 really quickly.
Yeah. Well,
so
I mean,
2018, mate, was the trailer. So we're 6 years along here, and we are none the wiser. And the trailer is literally environments. That's it. And it could have been made on the last Elder Scrolls engine.
It's not even like it's a teaser. It's not even like it's basically nothing. It's just a flyover of what is probably just a piece of generated art that is not even in the actual game engine. Who knows? And
will we see it in our lifetime, Cap? Will we see it in our lifetime, mate?
I mean, at this rate, man, who knows? I would be very surprised if in the next 2 years we don't get an announcement. Because, I mean, that would be 8 years since the teaser trailer, which would be insane in my mind. And, I mean, the last major, we had Starfield, and then before that we had Fallout 4. I actually have, can't remember if I spoke about this theory on here or not, but I actually have this theory that Starfield was actually, before it became Starfield, was a pre-early Elder Scrolls 6 game that they eventually just completely took a 360 on and then gave it a space theme and, you know, new lick of paint, essentially. And I reckon a lot of that came from they realised that the Elder Scrolls 6, as it was in that moment in time, could never go up against some of the other RPGs that were coming out, like The Witcher 3. Obviously, we've more recently had Baldur's Gate and stuff like that. We had Cyberpunk. I think that's what happened. And in the end, what they did was they reskinned it as a space-themed RPG. And then they basically, because then they could go, it's not related. It's Starfield. It's a brand new IP. And so I think that's why we've never seen anything since, is because they basically had to start development all over again.
Rebuild it up again. Well, look, fuck, I don't mind, because if they're going to develop a game that long ago on that engine and then release it now, I don't know. So maybe it needed some fresh stuff. Interesting.
Either
Interesting,
way,
mate.
It's been 6 years since the teaser trailer, and before that, they had announced that development was beginning for the Elder Scrolls 6. So this game's been in development for, like, I don't know, like probably 8 years, potentially longer. And we know that there's, over time, we've spoken, Grizz, about how the development time of AAA games has expanded and bloated over between each iteration of each game and over time naturally. But this is just getting to take the piss phase.
And Ari just commented in the chat, when the new Elder Scrolls game becomes more of a myth and mystery than the Elder Scrolls themselves.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good time to segue. All right, Grizz. So Baldur's Gate, what a game. I mean, I know you've put it on the back burner, but I mean, let's just give a little fucking clap to, you know, a developer that is actually producing video game content and putting it out at regular intervals. Larian Studios. Well done, legends. Now, before they finish up with Baldur's Gate 3, they're basically doing a final handover. So they're not going to be doing any major patches beyond this next one. But this next big one is to basically introduce modding support so that people can continue to just fucking keep it rolling.
And they did this for Divinity as well. Cap, have you opened Divinity recently?
No.
When was the last time? So on the main page in Divinity, there is on the main page is a mod button you can press, and that is so integrated into that game. You don't need any third-party software or anything like that. It's all integrated in that game and so accessible. I remember the last time I played, I actually enabled a couple of mods in there. Things like, I can't remember what I did, but inventory management and a bunch of stuff that people had made that just sounded really cool. Some new spells and other bits and pieces. But yeah, dude, they do their things right, Cap. You know, I think the way that they'll integrate it into their game, allowing mod support, it's just going to give the game a little bit extra life. You know, people are amazing with what they can do. Now they'll probably create extra little weapons and all sorts of stuff. So I think this is pretty cool. Do we know when this is coming, Cap? Do we know when we get this patch for the mods?
I'm not too sure, actually. I mean, is it in here? I think it's soon, TM. When are they? No, they haven't quite mentioned it, but yeah, I think it was before the end of the year was the plan. So, but yeah, it'll be cool. I think it's going to open up a lot of potential for some really cool shit. I mean, people will theoretically be able to utilize this to create their own like campaigns and stuff, which is going to be really cool.
Even things like item randomizers and stuff like that just make the game fresh again for people that are wanting to replay through it. So I think it's cool.
It's bloody exciting. Cool. And I mean, all this kind of tied with one of the last figures I could find, Grizz, was 15 million units sold. It's probably close at 20 now, I'd imagine. And another thing, Grizz, is the average play time for this game is actually fucking mental.
What is the average play time?
It's over 100 hours.
Yeah.
Average play time.
Let me have a look what I've got.
I know it's a huge game, but a lot of games people just pick up and don't finish, and they have 10 hours. So like your average play time isn't that big. But I mean, here's another reference, right? Starfield's average play time is 40 hours. Elden Ring's average play time is 47 hours, and Skyrim's average is 75. So over 100 hours is nuts.
I tell you what, the replayability in Baldur's Gate 3 is insane. I've done one through full playthrough, and we're playing through it again. And even like, there's just so many different outcomes of what are possible in that game. So, Cap, I've got 175 hours in Baldur's Gate 3, mates.
Yeah,
there you go.
I wonder what mine was. Mine would have been like in the 150-ish, I reckon. Can I just search that up? Baldur's Gate 3.
Get it on your Steam, mate. Have a look.
143 hours.
There you go.
Single playthrough.
Yeah. So it does not surprise me.
Do literally everything playthrough.
And that would include people that picked it up, got to the first act, and decided that they couldn't be fucked.
This is what I mean, Grizz. Like, that's a significant amount of time for even people who just dropped the game. Obviously it's weighing heavily towards that. So, yeah, mental. Great. Now, Grizz, speaking of that, there has been $19 billion spent on Steam for games people have never played.
Yeah. Fuck, I'll be one of those, dude. Mate, I reckon I've played like 1/20th of my Steam library.
Oh, dude, I reckon I'm lucky in that. And I tried to find a way we could find this stat out.
Yeah, how do
I couldn't find anything.
Out?
So if anyone on here knows of a tool where you can figure out what games you have never touched and as a percentage of your overall Steam library, would love to find that out. If you could tweet it to us or even jump on Discord, go to ogr.show. You can drop some information in any of those. But couldn't find it. But I reckon it is a shitload. I wonder even have we got the how much have I spent?
God, there is
Steam?
There is a way to see how much you've spent in Steam. I don't want to know because I've spent a lot of money in Dota. I remember we did this once, and people were like in the thousands and thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, I'd be very surprised if mine wasn't in that area. But yeah, I can't find it easily. But anyways. Maybe we'll report that next time we come in here. Honestly, though, $19 billion on games that people have never played, that's actually out of control. And, like, if you think about that, when it comes to, like Valve is just swimming in money from people who have just been like, here, this is money for you for no reason. That's basically what has happened. I'm sure there's other markets and stuff.
The Steam sales are the big ones. Oh, that Steam sales on hell! I'm going to buy heaps of games and never play them.
Yeah, I mean, I've been way better on that, and I think a lot of
Yeah.
that has been because I've already bought all the games.
You've already got all the good ones.
I've already
mate.
got them all,
Yeah,
but it's still
fuck.
kind of wild. So I just wanted to share that stat with you, Grizz. But one thing that's happened recently, Grizz, is Steam has just announced a new built-in game recording feature. So you can create and share gameplay footage directly in Steam, which
Wow.
is mental. Now, I'll just kind of give you a bit of an idea of, I guess, the features that are involved.
Is it kind of like shadow play kind of thing, Cap?
Exactly, all
You have an
inbuilt into
overlay
Steam.
on, do you? Or I guess you got Steam overlay on anyway.
It's just there. It's just a part of what you already had. So, basically, with background recording mode, your gameplay is continuously saved to your preferred drive, never exceeding your specified duration or storage limits. And on-demand recording mode is also available with manual on and off. You can then use Steam's timeline and event markers to find key moments.
Dang.
Replay, you can quickly jump back in time, useful for seeing things that went wrong or when your hero died or recalling. Accessible in the Steam overlay. You can also create clips of your favorite moments that you can share and edit them locally. And you can share them directly in the Steam chat or, download it and beyond. And it's pretty wild. Yeah, they've got all these like timeline event markers. So another cool thing about this is there's a entire API that is available to game developers now. So, for example, they showed how your entire Dota game can be recorded quite easily with this new feature. And you can see timeline and event markers show up on your recorded game. You can see where you died, so you can click that event, go back and look at it in the past, add player markers and stuff. So it's pretty damn cool, Grizz, because like theoretically, other like competitive games could hook into this API and then use it to do the same kind of thing, like mark. Your COD game could show you where you died in your, on your timeline and stuff like that. So this is some pretty cool and interesting ways that you can do this.
That's cool. Yeah,
Another really cool one, Grizz, is it works on Steam Deck.
No.
It
See, that was my first question, Cap, because I know first thing I do when I get my PC is disable all the overlays. The Steam one, I don't. But I know that like the recording overlays and, being able to capture moments in the past does use resources. So I'm surprised that it is working on the Steam Deck effectively.
Yeah. I don't know how it works under the hood, but I'd imagine, Steam's always generally pretty good, especially if it's able to kind of utilize resources that it's kind of already using for its overlays and stuff. If it's able to just divert a little bit of juice towards recording game stuff, like it's kind of fucking wild, right? So
it's cool, yeah.
Like really, really cool update that's apparently available immediately. So you should be able to go and check that out. But yeah, Grizz, for me, I think the API availability is probably the big one here because, there's things in here where you can mark events that happen in your game to show up in certain ways on the recording timeline. Like, maybe there's a boss battle, you've unlocked a new item or something like that. You can sync it with certain states in your game to kind of like mark when it might be a good idea to start recording and stuff. So you can do like auto recording stuff, even just like marking when stopping recording, like when you go into lobbies and stuff like that. Like it's just really cool. So I think if I was a game developer, I'd be quite excited, big time, quite excited.
Yeah. Yep.
So very freaking radical. But yeah, there you go. Grizz, got a question for you. I don't know how your gaming's going, my friend.
Well, Capo, I've put everything aside for the Elden Ring DLC. Now, before I jump into this, obviously be wary of spoilers, right? For potential viewers, or how are we managing this today, Capo?
I'm just thinking. Look, I think as long as we don't talk about the final boss, we should be fine.
Okay. I have been playing a bit of Dota, with Rorks in the chat. Sometimes been keeping my skills up there. I am going to try to climb to something decent this year. I'm slowly getting out of the trenches, mate. Slowly. No,
yeah.
Elden Ring DLC, Capo. I think it does a lot right. I've kind of written down the things that I have enjoyed about my playthrough. So I don't know. You happy for me just to kind of work through?
Yeah,
through
absolutely.
This list? Yeah.
Yep.
So I feel, Cap, that there's moments of this DLC that have trumped any other time from any other Souls game that I've had.
Yeah.
Everything, and it's a combination, I think, of the way that they've done it. It's the world building, it's the atmosphere, it's the voice acting, it's the music, and there's a couple of moments in particular, and one of them is, without spoiling too much, one of the dragon fights that you have, one of the late game ones. I just absolutely loved that whole area and that whole build up, and I love bringing that NPC in and the way that he voice acted in that fight, and that whole atmosphere around that was just amazing.
Yeah.
I think there are a couple of environments that you walk into and it's like, dang, this is cool. It made me realize, Cap, that I think Elden Ring was actually quite was way less saturated color wise, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, you look at Limgrave and that area, and then even Caelid and everything else, it was all quite like monotone color. You've got areas in this game that are just truly beautiful, like, you know, bright,
absolutely vibrant,
very vibrant. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that aesthetic playing through. Sorry, I'm just going to clear my throat real quick, Kat.
Yeah, mate, go for God. I think just to kind of follow up on that is like, you're totally right. They definitely have taken some of the environments in kind of just an incredibly, it's almost like fluorescent direction in some areas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And you can touch more on it, but I feel like there's obviously lore tied behind all those bits and pieces. You're in this kind of, you know, this shadow realm. It's quite different to what you see in the main game. Cap, I found the actual world design as a whole far less flat, more intertwined, to the point of where I was getting confused where I was going. But I think that it actually reminded me of the way they created some of the Dark Souls 3 level designs, where you would be going through this one particular area and you'll do a massive exploration, then all of a sudden you'd unlock a door and you're like, oh my God, I'm back in this area again, and I've unlocked a shortcut. It was kind of like that, but on a world scale, where you would be exploring one certain place and then you come out and you're like, oh my God, I've just come out of this river mouth and I'm like here again. I know where I am. And they just did I think that obviously someone spent a lot of time developing that map and the way it kind of works. And I just thought that was very well put together. And because it's built like that, Kat, there was lots of little secret areas and stuff hidden in amongst the intertwinedness of the world that, very, exploration was fantastic. I really enjoyed looking in every little nook and cranny and exploring.
Yeah, no, big time.
The armor and the weapons, Cap. Touching on that really quickly, there was something that Dark Souls 2 did. Did you play through Dark Souls 2? You did, Majula.
I did, yep.
Where they had armor sets had affixes on them, some of them. They would like increase your intelligence, and they would actually do things. They would do things. And I feel like that was the only Souls game that did that. Elden Ring base game didn't really do that apart from the helmets. But that's one thing that I've loved about the DLC is a lot of the armor sets have these little buffs on them. An example is that I found that this set that gives you more damage to all of your dancing move sets with certain weapons. And I was using a weapon with a dancing move set, so I banged that on. And there's quite a few throughout the game. I think that was a really nice addition. It kind of made you think a little bit more about your build and can you put on some stuff that makes your build a little bit better. So I really enjoyed that. Kat, the NPC quests, I found them a little bit less convoluted than
I'd agree.
Standard Souls games.
Yeah.
I feel like they all revolved around one overarching story, lore-wise. So I found it easier to follow them. I think I missed a few, but I wasn't left going, oh, fuck, I don't understand this. I'm just going to talk to this guy, to skip all his dialogue, and then hope I bump into him a bit later. I found it a bit easier to follow someone who's not hugely into lore. So I think that was a positive. Difficulty, Cap. I think the difficulty so far was it's interesting. I almost have a negative to say about it. I feel like the game is fucking hard until you reach a point with the scooter fragments, and then you literally piss through the remainder of the game.
Yeah,
which is kind of what I found. I had pretty much most of the bosses just sitting there, unfought
Yeah,
until I'd
same.
done all the exploration. Then I went back and I nearly killed them in the space of a couple of hours. I just went through and
I literally did the exact same thing.
And I don't know whether that is I don't know whether it's necessarily a bad thing, because I don't think there's a way for them to have implemented DLC and manage the power spike when, you know, you've got existing characters you're taking in. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, Cap? Do you think they could have done that better to prevent that from happening? Or
look, it's pretty hard to kind of scale it and design it properly. I think the only option you might have had there would be if you segmented the world a little bit more and gated off certain areas to buy bosses, and then you could only restrict certain numbers of Scatter Tree.
Make it more linear kind of thing, and so they've got to defeat this guy to... Yeah. I'm glad that they didn't do that, by the way, because I like
I am too, because I think, like, personally, I didn't have it in me to belt my head against some of the bosses for hours. And so I was kind of glad that I could be like, okay, I'm going to go and do something else and come back later. And then when I came back later, it was like 4 attempts max a lot of the time. And so that felt pretty good. But, I mean, some of the bosses were, like, trivial. Like, I don't know, the one that before you find Saint Trina, and it's like that thing on the horse. And I was just like, I fucking four-shot it.
I definitely think certain bosses were more difficult for
by far
other people. Yeah. So, like, for example, I had a really hard time, dude, with that fucking flower boss.
Because I had no issue with that flower boss. Yeah.
He was an asshole, man.
Yeah.
I think it was because
I one-shot it. And
did you? Yeah.
Because then I saw, again, it was the same thing as that Blackguard thing, one of the first optional bosses. And I saw people complaining about it, and I thought, I didn't have any issue with that. But again, it comes down to like what you're using. By that stage, I had so many Scatter Tree fragments that I was staggering it really easily, and it just basically couldn't survive what I was doing to it. And I took that as been my main weapon in the game since then, has been that boss as my thing. But yeah, I think they've done a good job overall. It's a real difficult one, Grizz, like to find the right balance there.
Yeah.
And people are always going to complain. I think for me, I definitely think it trivialized some things once I got to a certain point of player power with the fragments. But I will say they mean fucking nothing for this final boss.
It's kind of cool though, Cap, because requiring the fragments encourages you to explore and play 100%, the game.
Yeah, and enjoy it all.
And enjoy it.
And look.
Yeah,
because I've maxed my fragments out now. So I've got the maximum blessing. And then, I've walked into the final boss maybe 10 or 15 times now, and it is fucking ridiculous.
I haven't got in there yet. I've unlocked
and I'm not going to say anything about it, but to go in. Me.
I've unlocked the area to go in there. And I think I'm sitting at about 15 or 16 scooter. I'm pretty sure. Level up.
So it goes up to 20, and it's actually crazy. I think I'm going to have to change my build because I just don't think my character is fast enough. It's actually insane. There's like, it's probably the most ridiculous fight I've had to do, probably since Orphan of Kos. Yeah. With just shit that you can't dodge. I'm just like, what the fuck? It's just like, it's insane. But I'm interested to get your take on it next Grizz, because But look,
just want to quickly touch on Mousie's comment in the chat there, just reading through that, Cat, and just to summarize that, the community's always been like, with the difficulty, a get good mentality for games like this. The DLC kind of seems to have changed attitude a little bit, saying the system is to make it easier for people to kind of get involved. The handbrake U-turn is so weird to see to me. I think what it is, Mousy, as Souls games are becoming more mainstream and you're getting a lot more people that aren't
more copies sold.
Souls fans, more copies sold, that they want to have a not a Souls experience, or they're looking for an experience that's a bit more exploration.
And I think that's only natural because, like, as you have more copies sold, you have more customers to keep happy, so they're not going to go through and do the usual From Software bullshit with some of their DLCs where, you know, you have to do all this inane shit to get to a DLC, and I mean, go from there. But I think also, you know, whilst it kind of seems like a U-turn, like the game's not any easier. Like
It's
I think
still fucking hard.
it's still really hard, and even with the fragments, like some of the bosses are like significantly difficult. But it's one of those things where it's like the games have always given you things to make the game easier. But if you don't interface with those things, of course, the game's going to be hard. I think there's also a lot of like, you know, games content now these days where people are telling you, you know, here's the build to do like 1 billion bleed damage, and people just go and do that, and then it's suddenly really easy. And everyone's like, man, this game's so fucking easy. But like, I don't know. It's just, I think there's so many things that counteract it all, you know?
Just reflecting as a whole here, Cap, FromSoft have definitely done a few things to make the game more accessible to more people. I think maybe simplifying the lore a little bit is one of those.
Yeah.
And I think the whole scooter tree upgrade system is one of those. But they've also stuck to their roots a lot, Cap. You know, the entry to the DLC, as always, is towards the end of the main game.
Yeah.
Gated behind possibly one of the hardest bosses in the game.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've still kept some of those key things that
but I mean,
makes those DLCs special.
They actually advertised how to do it this time. Like most of the time, they don't tell you how to get in there. And then like it takes people figuring out, oh, I've got to like get this item that drops off this thing to then go to this area. Then I use that and give that to this person who then like gives me another item that I then go and use on this door. Like it's just
ask Pixel Ninetales about the entry to Bloodborne. I remember sitting in there watching his stream for about 5 hours as he literally explores the whole of the game to try to find the entry to the DLC.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you're right. This is way more accessible because, like, it's a fairly simple entry point, right? Pixels chiming out in chat. I love it. But yeah, I think ultimately that's probably where we see this, you know, change, right? And I mean, realistically, like Elden Ring's such a different beast in terms of like size and what the potential variance in player level by the end of the game because of all the potential optional content that you might or might not interface with as a player, right? Yep. And obviously, if people are going to go and pay $60 for a piece of DLC content, that's a significant investment. So the player, I guess, realistically deserves some degree of, I guess, you know, craftsmanship there to ensure that people can interface with it. And a lot of that comes, I think, from the Skadu tree fragments. But yeah,
how much time have you put into the DLC, Cap? How many hours you got, you reckon?
Yeah, I think before the DLC, I had about 100 hours or something worth, and right now I'm sitting on 100. Oh, maybe not. Oh no, I had about 80 hours, and I'm sitting on a playtime of 111.6 hours, so just over 30 odd hours, maybe 30, 35-ish max.
Yeah, I think mine would be pretty similar, I reckon.
Yeah, and that's me doing literally every single thing I possibly can.
Yeah. How much was the DLC? $50? $60?
$50, $60, I think, from memory. So pretty good, you know. Yeah. Like, you know, there's a lot of AAA games that are that length.
Actually, that's one thing I haven't touched on, Cap. I feel like the build variety is insane.
Oh yeah.
Like,
and the new weapons
of shit.
Oh, big time. And the new spells and weapons and things that you can get. There's so much like I don't know, intertwining of potential there, you know. It's actually kind of insane. But yeah, I guess I'm
going to ask you a question, Cap, because I'm done. How is your gaming going, mate? Tell me all about it.
Yeah, and my gaming has looked very, very similar to your gaming. I basically have just bled every single spare moment into Elden Ring, but I've kind of hit a point now where I've walked into the final boss and it is insanely difficult, and I haven't felt like I really want to get back in there too often because it has just been a absolute floor wiping. And I do, honest to God, feel like I need to change my fucking build, which is kind of annoying. But is what it is. You know, it's a Souls game. It's just how it goes sometimes. And, you know, I haven't been able to get good quite just yet. But it's, look, Shadow of the Erd Tree is going to, like, it's funny that this game is a DLC because it's one of the greatest pieces of game content that's ever been put out. Like, it's just wild.
How have you found the lore and the ties to the main game and other bits and pieces?
Yeah, look, I think the lore's been really good. I kind of didn't expect. I mean, I kind of did, but I kind of didn't expect the lore to go in the way that it did. More so, just with, I guess, the way you follow everything, without sort of being too literal with spoilers and stuff. But I guess what I kind of mean there is how you're kind of being breadcrumbed and why you're being breadcrumbed. I find to be quite interesting. I really love what they do, and I kind of spoke about it last time, but just this whole the symbology of the game and likening Mikola to like a Jesus Christ, I think is really well kind of, it's kind of poetic in a lot of ways, I guess. You see a lot of those parallels drawn, and you've got kind of these people that are following in his footsteps, kind of like pilgrims trying to, do the same kind of thing. And I just really kind of appreciate that, and how it, coalesces into this quite sinister narrative, as it seems a lot of the Elden Ring base game also has done in a lot of ways, and it just kind of keeps, revolving back into. So I got this hair stuck in my mouth. Revolving back into this kind of grimdark fantasy thing where, as always in Dark Souls games, no one really wins. Everything kind of sucks. No one's really a good guy. Despite maybe them naming themselves to be the good guy, everyone's got their own ulterior motives, and those motives generally don't result in anyone winning, particularly outright. Maybe some people, but others not. And I think it's kind of funny because, like, I was kind of thinking about it the other day, is like Elden Ring, the base game is like, as always, a kind of post-apocalypse style narrative in a more
Shit's
medieval
already
setting.
hit the fan. Yeah.
Exactly. And what's happening in Shadow of the Erd Tree is you've gone from a post-apocalyptic area into a post-apocalyptic area, because that area, the Shadow of the Erd Tree area, was where a massive shit fight happened before the base game, and there was a moment in time where things were fine after that moment, but now things have shit the bed again. So now we're kind of going back through two layers of post-apocalypticism, and it's kind of, I don't know. They do a great job of tying up some of the loose ends and kind of giving you some meaning to some of the less understood things in the base game, and it's really great.
Did you have some big ding moments, Cap, where your brain just combusted from knowledge?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it is just like not like explaining why things happened, because there's a lot of things where I feel like that's still kind of my interpretation's not quite there, and I probably going to have to watch a few YouTube videos, I think, as per usual. But I think you read a few lore texts in the game, or item texts, and then you realize like who certain characters are related to and why. And some of the bosses in there, like, for example, I think it's the the knight, the magic knight that has the flame sword and the blue sword.
Yeah, fuck, that was one of my favorite fights in the whole game, dude. That was so cool.
So from what I understand, that is Renala's sister, which is kind of cool because she was like sent back into the shadow to kind of go and fucking sort out Mesmer or something like that. And it's just all these little layers that you kind of start going, holy shit, that's mental, and like, oh, that's how that person's kind of, where they're from, because then you kind of see these similar motifs, and you're like, well, why is that here? And like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, was that always there? Like, and yeah, even like, the whole idea of those hand things in the base game, and there's like no reason for them to be there. There's no lore. No one knew what the fuck they were there for. And then there's an entire quest line as to what they are. And it is mind-boggling.
Dude. Yeah. And I don't know if you watched the TikTok I sent you, dude, but the armor that you get from that particular fight, if you alter it, it turns into the finger armor he was wearing.
Oh,
and
gross.
it buffs the finger incantations. It actually changes
Sick.
the power of that armor. Check it out. Looks very cool.
Really? Okay. I couldn't watch it because I don't like TikTok used to let you watch TikToks. We're having TikTok, but now you have to have TikTok to watch the TikToks, and I just don't have TikTok. I do Instagram Reels, not TikTok, so just another thing I need to do. But yeah, look, I guess I haven't quite finished it yet. I've got a final boss to go, and I'm probably at this stage probably going to just do some multiplayer just to knock it on the head and just be done with it. But I've loved it entirely, and I think it's been such a good progression of Elden Ring, and it's such a great little magnum opus kind of moment. Just the cherry on top of the Elden Ring cake, and I'm really excited to see what they do next.
Isn't it, Cap? There's no more Elden Ring.
There's
now,
no more
content.
Elden Ring, but there has been rumblings. So I can't remember what George R. Martin said. So let me just quickly. George R. Martin. So he recently teased that there might be a TV show or something coming soon.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
So someone basically in a blog post, he said, and about the rumors you may have heard about a feature film or television series based on Elden Ring, ... I have nothing to say. Not a word. No.
Could you imagine the
I know
bosses
nothing.
and shit? Like that'd be fucking.
I don't even
insane.
know how it would look, because I think the thing for me is like in Elden Ring, like the protagonist is completely silent.
Yeah, he doesn't say anything. Yeah.
So
I like that.
How does it look? I don't even know.
I just want to see Patches in there being an arsehole, just like fucking luring you into something in.
They could do they could do the story of how Godwin, is like the whole shift, like the shattering. So the big battle that happens, when Melania and Radahn have their massive fight, like talk about that moment in time why that happened. And then it goes into the game, and then you go and play the game. You know what I mean? Like
that's
going to
drive
really cool
people to fucking go and play Elden Ring again, dude. If they do that, if they do some kind of
there could be some significantly cool TV moment stuff. But yeah. Anyways, that's me, my gaming. And apart from that, I downloaded a game called what was that game called, Grizz, that I just spoke about?
You did tell me about it.
Oh,
surely after Elden Ring, we're playing World of Warcraft, aren't we, Kat?
I mean, yeah. Probably. Let's do it. Okay. Absolutely. I got this game called Dread Illusion, which kind of looks like a Morrowind style kind of game. And I'm probably just going to play it on my Steam Deck. It looks kind of interesting. And yeah, I don't know. I'm quite excited to just play like a weird little open world kind of RPG thing. So yeah, that's what I got. All right, Grizz. You know what time it is. It's this time.
Rapid Fire News. Brought to you by DJ Francesco. It's in the game.
It's in the freaking game.
That voice is yours, isn't it, Cap? That voice is yours. Is that
what the one going? What does it say? Rapid Fire News brought to you by.
Is that you?
Yeah, it's me.
Love it.
Yeah, it was me all along. All right, Grizz. Twitter integration no longer exists for any major consoles, including PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo. Basically, I think recently this month, the Nintendo Switch dropped its Twitch integration. And I mean, it makes complete sense. Basically, when X, now called X, or Twitter, was acquired by Elon Musk et al., they implemented a thing where to use the API for Twitter, you had to pay significant amounts of money. It was no longer a free API. And as a result, a lot of things just kind of died, including like third-party Twitter things like TweetDeck was a free use kind of multi thing.
Is that not a thing you can do anymore?
You can't do it anymore because it was going to cost them like millions of dollars to use the API to handle those requests, and it was free for use. So yeah, it's basically died, and slowly these integrations have been removed from existing services for other things, including Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Capo, this is a bit of a story here. This is a tweet from Hideo Kojima developer of Death Stranding, amongst other projects. When I just started my own studio and had nothing, I pitched the Death Stranding project to Norman Reedus at a sushi restaurant, asked him if he would like to do it with me. He instantly said yes, even though he didn't even have a script. The following month, we conducted scanning and performance capture for the trailer. He's also noted that he was still underweight and skinny at the time, and he's put 2 pictures of that actually happening. So it's a pretty interesting, Cap. Pretty cool.
Yeah,
the origin story behind Death Stranding, mate.
Mr. Reedus. And it makes sense. I mean, like, I'd assume Reedus was probably a bit of a gamer, but then also would have appreciated a lot of Kojima's stuff because he is a incredibly unique, developer and individual. So, yeah, makes total sense. All right, Grizzly. Speaking of Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree has sold 5 million copies only, I think it's about 2 weeks after release, not even, maybe a week or so after release. But this was about 11 days ago, so I'd imagine that number is much more now, firstly.
Yep.
But, selling 5 million copies that soon after a release date for a DLC, nonetheless, is kind of mental.
It's pretty good. It's also assuming that, well, I wonder how many people have bought that and not got through the main game.
Well,
I wonder how many people have bought that and got into the DLC.
Well, how many people have bought both of them and never played the game? According to
probably
Steam's $19 billion spent and not played.
Probably a couple of. Hey, Cap, have you got a Wii U?
Not anymore. Actually, yes, I do. I do.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Is it broken?
I hope not.
Well, if it is broken, apparently Nintendo have announced that they are out of parts necessary for repairs. So as of July 3rd, 2024, they will no longer be accepting repairs for the Wii U consoles and peripherals.
Yeah. End of an era, Grizz. I mean, yeah, I guess like anything, they're not going to kind of keep shoveling money into something that they're not selling. So makes sense. All right, Grizz, a follow-up to the legendary Disco Elysium might have been ready to play within the next year. The devs loved it, management cancelled it, and then they laid off the team recently. So for a while, it seemed like miracles were possible, and with them redemption. So, look, there's been a long-running issue with the developer company of Disco Elysium, and there being, allegations of abuse and all kinds of other shit going on, and people doing all this dodgy, shady shit with money and whatnot. And it seems like, they had tried to plan a follow-up, but more recently there was a big old layoff where 25 of its staff were cut, including writers, which, for a small studio is a significant number of people. So, yeah. Looks like things are truly shit in the bed now. So you probably will never get a Disco Elysium 2, and maybe we didn't need it.
There you go. Interesting. Cap, CD Projekt Red says its new Boston studio means Cyberpunk 2 will be authentically more American. The example they've used here is that apparently it had the wrong manhole covers. One senior exec pointed out, so they need to fix that straight away.
Yeah. I mean, you know what's funny though, Grizz, is I never considered Cyberpunk 1 to be like a America. I mean, I know that there was very American things in there, and I think the DLC, the whole Phantom Liberty thing is kind of, there's a president and all this other shit. But when I played the game, the entire time, I never thought, oh, this is like America, but not quite America. Like I kind of just thought of it being a separate kind of thing and drawing inspiration, but I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, Grizz, I'm going to skip this one and move on to the next one because we already spoke about it. Across Europe, game sales for May are down 17% compared with the same period last year. These figures are considered to be mostly due to the fact that Tears of the Kingdom came out last year. And to put into context, in 2023, Zelda sold more than the entire top 10 in May 2024. That's fucking nuts.
That is fucking nuts, actually.
That is fucking nuts.
There's a lot. That's a lot
of fucking sold copies. Big time.
Done well. Now, Cap, there was no link to this, so I've just Googled it. But apparently, in Ubisoft's recent cull, the game Good and Evil 2 has survived the cull. So we've got confirmation that that game is still in development. Cap, is that right?
We did. I think there was a tweet. Basically, they were saying, "Hey, don't worry, guys, it's still in development." But notoriously, so I never played the original Beyond Good and Evil, but it's a cult classic. It's one of those beloved Ubisoft older IPs. But beyond all that, it's kind of had the Duke Nukem Forever treatment, where like they will always be like, "Oh, it's coming," and then it just seemed like it was just all bullshit. Eventually, it came out. But
I've never seen this game, dude, but it looks kind of interesting.
you've never seen it? Yeah, it's kind of like it's an older game, the original one. I can't remember what year it came out. Have you got the year of release for the original game?
14 years ago, apparently.
14 years ago. That kind of stacks up. So what's that? 2010?
Oh, wait. It's been 14 years since they started writing about Beyond Good and Evil 2. So
yeah, I was going to say, that seems
it must
earlier
be
than I
longer.
expected. Yeah, I would have thought
okay.
Beyond Good and Evil 1 would have been like early 2000s or something.
Right,
So,
shit.
yeah. But yeah, anyways, beloved game. Basically, we hadn't heard an awful lot, and then it sounded like they released a trailer that teased it basically in, Elder Scrolls 6 style, I guess. And we've kind of heard nothing since, but then Ubisoft's been like, "Don't worry, guys, it's coming, I swear." So, I don't know. Maybe one day we'll see that game. Maybe not. Tell you what,
Maybe.
you will definitely see next time is us, because that is the end of the show, Grizzly Gaming 86.
Hey! It is.
Really appreciate you guys being here tonight. Thank you to all our wonderful live listeners in here tonight. It's been great having you in here. Pixel, Mousy, 12 Orcs, Darty. Who else we got here? Airy J, Slatos, Moosey.
Lots of legends.
Zalabar, welcome, mate. Obviously, Wep. Inferno, yeah, just all you legends. Thanks for jumping in. Really appreciate you guys immensely.
Kazi,
if you'd like to, yeah, absolutely. Oh, is Kazi in here? I missed him.
There he is.
Yeah.
Just a real quick reminder before you jump into your spiel, guys. Please do check out the show notes for this week's episode. We did announce at the start of the episode, if you're coming in late or you missed the start, that we do have another podcast under the OGR banner. It is run by a lovely gentleman called Weapon, good friend of Cap and I's here. Our podcast is aimed at esports and all things esports, Cap, plus
Australian esports, Oceanic flavour. And yeah, a lot of it, again, kind of to reiterate what we spoke about at the start of the show, is a lot of it's kind of like insight into esport kind of trends and player mindsets and stuff. I had to listen to the episode earlier in last week, and yeah, it's a ripper, and just things I never even kind of considered, even talking about reaction times and stuff. And yeah, I've always kind of thought about reaction times, but then they kind of tempered that with how player experience basically impacts the needs for certain levels of reaction time, because or does it kind of improve do you actually, I won't go too hard on it, because you should go and listen to the episode, but yeah, go and check out.
So there is one episode already. These guys are going to be running. We're fortnightly. They're fortnightly. So there's going to be always something under the OGR banner that you guys are welcome to go listen to.
Exactly.
On our weeks off.
We're working on getting a unified playlist and some kind of media areas that you guys can have all that coalesced into a single feed. And we might. Nothing set in stone, but there might even be more podcasts coming soon. Okay. So pretty exciting in the Oceanic kind of games media library. So yeah, keep an eye out on socials. We'll announce more once we have more information for you. But yeah, regardless, thank you again for being here. If you want to go and listen to the show after the fact, you can go to ogr.show and you'll find all of our links to all of our different podcasting platforms, our YouTubes, our Discords. If you want to continue the conversation on after the fact, you want to come and say good day. Yeah, you can do that too. Otherwise, if you want to become a Patreon, go to patreon.com/OGR show, and you can be paying us money, and we would bloody appreciate it. Let me tell you that for free, because this shit ain't cheap, pal. Yeah. Other than that, that's about it, really. We'll see you guys in a fortnight. Love you guys immensely. See you there.
Peace out.